Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Ian Blackburn, and every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we host Zoom into Wine on many different platforms, including YouTube and Facebook. And we are gathered here with a live audience, live via Zoom. And we've got little tasting kits out with little samples of wine all over the place. And really fun discussion will ensue tonight. We encourage everyone to be a part of it. Use the chat box, talk to me live on the screen. And I hope you guys will all join me in this effort. We're going to taste some amazing wines tonight. Tonight, we're going to study a little Bordeaux. And we're going to taste through a really nice cross-section of Bordeaux's representing different appellations and different quality levels, and kind of get right in there and talk about some great wine. Thank you guys for joining me. Some of our regulars in the house. Really appreciate it. Dee and Rob, thank you for joining me. Let's see a nice sunset shot there.
Yeah, glad to. I've got my husband joining us tonight.
All right. Fantastic. Gary and Kathy, thank you. Gia, always great to see you. Tom, thank you. Seema, hi Seema. Happy to have you here. Lisa, always great. Hi. I'm excited to meet with you guys again. It seems like it's been forever. It's only been a week, but what a week it's been. If you're into baseball at all, this has been an amazing time period. Of course, I'm going through withdrawals because I usually have 10 or 15 baseball games I get to look at. Now we're down to one starting on Friday, the World Series. And wow, who would have thought that none of the first place teams made it to the World Series? Only the two wild card teams made it to the World Series, which is something we're going to talk about all off season, I'm sure. But these teams definitely are winning the postseason. I definitely think it's a multi-season game now, and quite an interesting period here for us, for baseball fans anyway. So I'm wearing the pink. This is the Brooklyn Dodger hat tonight, as we also talk about Bordeaux. So it's not a Bordeaux hat, although pretty Barbie. Also, someone said Barbie. Let us go into our slideshow and begin as we talk about wine now. And we had a lot of fun putting this together. Everybody see the Bordeaux slideshow? Hope that's on your screen. Every time I bring up a topic like this, I have to kind of go back in the books and kind of revisit some information. You don't use it, you lose it type of stuff. I have been to Bordeaux a bunch of times. I love visiting Bordeaux. I really think Bordeaux's in an interesting place right now. They've had an amazing run of great vintages. There's never been more great Bordeaux available. There's also a really interesting thing happening with a lot of mature people starting to age out of wine for unfortunate reasons. Some people just can't continue to drink wine as they enter into their 70s, 80s, 90s. And those wines are starting to come onto the market. And so it's creating this pretty interesting in the wine collectors market. Now, Bordeaux is collecting wine, but it is, it has been the model for being able to invest in wine. And the style that they've made for a very long period of time has also rewarded patience. But things are changing. It's getting warmer in the world. Riper wines are coming to the marketplace. Freshness is very exciting. Younger people are wanting to buy the new wine and possibly even drink it sooner. They're not necessarily interested in buying somebody else's older wine. So some of that really old stuff is really coming down in price. It's getting very interesting. I've never seen prices come down on the great collectibles, and it's certainly been happening for a while. This is not something I just woke up today and realized, but I've seen it kind of slowly slip down this hill. And new wine prices are still strong, still expensive, but some of these wines are being released about half as what they were at the 209 or 2009 heights. That was kind of like the moment when the 2009 started coming out. These wines were really expensive. Fives were really expensive as well. That whole era in there, prices were really, really high. And I really think it set the market up to have some problems, because once the wines are too expensive, retailers can't mark them up. People can't collect them because there's no real runway forward for them to grow in price point. So that kind of created some problems. But let's regress back a little bit up onto the history of Bordeaux, and let's sink into our chair for a moment and just kind of reflect on what we're going to be studying tonight. Some of you have opted to do the Zalto glass, and I'm going to talk over the top of this really beautiful video that you may have seen before. But the Zalto glass, which I'll be using tonight, and some of you might also be joining me in its use, is hand forged in Austria. And there are still handmade glasses, but machines are taking over the industry. But Zalto remains 100% handmade. Fantastic. Zalto. I get my Zalto allocations once a year, and we just got them into stock. We've probably already sold about half of what we get, but we do still have some for the Christmas holiday. They will make a wonderful present. One size fits all, and everyone appreciates getting an elevated wine glass. As I say, Mr. Riedel even said it himself. If you're going to drink a $10 bottle of wine, a $10 wine glass is not a bad idea. But a $100 bottle of wine or more, maybe it should be in a $100 wine glass. Now, Riedel doesn't own Zalto yet. I don't think they've got it in mind to buy it either. But Riedel is the biggest and the best. Zalto is just a little teeny pimple in the stratosphere of glassware, but really thought to be an exceptional product. I love holding it in my hand, and tonight I'm using the Bordeaux Zalto series. We're going to be talking tonight about Bordeaux, which, as you can see on the map of France, very close to England, and there's great relationship with the English wine market. It is a bit of a journey to Paris, but you could easily fly between the two. You could take the train between the two, but they're far enough away that feels like you're, going somewhere remote. Bordeaux is like a little Paris. I don't know how many of you have been there before, but it is a fantastic place to visit, full of all the amenities of a great city. I do think of it like a mini Paris. And obviously the wine region surrounds the city of Bordeaux. In the heart of Bordeaux, there's no wine production, but Bordeaux is the center of the region, and where all the commerce takes place. But you can move out into the countryside and see these vast estates. And speaking of which, the states that are so large were and so significant that in 1855 there was a document created to classify Bordeaux, and that classification still is intact today, where they really wanted to understand which wines were the best, which wines were second best, third best, which were the most important estates, etc. And the Napoleon III sent his wine expert to Bordeaux to create this classification, basically a shopping list. And it was only done on the left bank, not the right bank, because the right bank was filled with these small 5-6 hectare properties that were just too teeny to really get anybody's time and attention. It was much more, overwhelmed with the left bank. So that's where the left bank got classified. And as we say now, ironically, the most expensive wines are on the right bank. Brands like Le Pen, of course, Petrus, Ozone, and many others sell for quite a bit of money, but they're also super teeny. When we talk about collectible wine, I think about Bordeaux, and the houses that we're going to refer to as the top houses, they tend to make about 25,000 cases of their top wine, their first growths. Whereas in Burgundy, some of the houses, some of their top wines, they may make 25 cases or 100 cases or 200 cases. So that's why Burgundy has really kind of come in and spanked Bordeaux as far as its collectability and its exclusivity. Bordeaux is made with a world in mind. Burgundy is not able to do that. I do have a fun little video. It's about 3 minutes on some pretty significant events. Elicite produced this video, but I think it's some really wonderful historical dates to appreciate.
Martin, hi, it's so nice to see you again. So you're a fine wine expert and one of the founding members at Elicite. I'm really excited to be with you in London and actually ask you some really precise questions around Bordeaux. How could you summarize the history of winemaking in Bordeaux?
So the history in Bordeaux, I would say, starts with 50-60 BC. This is when the Romans arrived in the Bordeaux region, mainly in Saint-Emilion area, and they started dug chalk in order to build houses, basically. And this is, we could say, the beginning of the winemaking in Bordeaux region. Fast forward 1152, Eleanor of Aquitaine married Henry II, the future king of England. And this love story is basically the beginning of a relationship between Bordeaux and England. After this marriage, very close link, obviously, between Bordeaux and England. And for 300 years, for Bordeaux was the main export market, England. And they had a lot of influence of winemaking, etc. The next date I would say we need to mention, it's in about 1600. This is when Dutch, the main market at the time, basically arrived in Bordeaux and drained the left bank of Bordeaux, which is now the Medoc region, to create more space to plant the vineyards. And that's a big change because now we used to be big dams. At the moment, it's one of the finest vineyards in all Bordeaux, like a Pouilly, Saint-Estève, Saint-Julien. After that, I think it's an interesting fact to mention 1660s. This is when Chateau Haut-Brion first bottled single estate wine. So that's an interesting fact to know. The next is 1855 classification, very famous classification, which was basically ordered by Napoleon III for exhibition in Paris, with left bank wines needed to be classified because it was confusing at the time. a lot of different wines made and who is the best. And the next I think we need to mention is 1869 with phylloxera, the disaster, basically, which swept whole vineyards in Europe, including Bordeaux, from 1869 to about 1880s. About 60% of all vineyards was wiped out.
And phylloxera, it was an illness?
Yeah, so it's basically a disease, a tiny, tiny bug, which just affects a vine and kills it.
Okay, Martin. Well, thank you so much for your time and all your masterful insights.
Some pretty significant happenings there. And in fact, in 1869, phylloxera was the first of 3 successive scourge, as they call them. We also had problems with.
Ian, you're back with faint audio.
Audio is not doing well.
There, that's better. Whatever you just did.
Just by touching it, huh?
I guess so.
Okay, well, might be time for a new microphone. Is that sounding all right? I hope that is. Okay, thank you, Rob and Dee. So yes, great. Thank you very much. Apologize for that, but sometimes the cabling starts to wear out, and I'll have to get a new microphone for next week. But the successive scourge, we also had dead arm, it's called, which is literally transferred from vine to vine by the cutting shears. So we had this disease being taken all over Bordeaux. And then just as they were figuring that out, another scourge came along called black goo, and that scared people, because the vine started pushing this black sap out of its wounds. And so there were 3 successive scourge that drove a lot of people out of Bordeaux and really pushed people to places such as Rioja, Ribera del Duero. And unfortunately for them, they took their plants with them, and therefore some of their diseases as well. So that kind of followed them in their journey. But these things shaped Bordeaux in many, many ways, and the way the wine world thinks of Bordeaux. When we think of Bordeaux from a grape standpoint, 97% of the wine made in Bordeaux is red. 97% of the volume. So, and tonight we're going to start with one of the great whites. I love the white wines of Bordeaux. I love white wine. I tell everyone that I probably drink more white wine than I do red wine, just because I'm in the wine business and I taste red wine more than I taste white. But drinking and tasting are a little bit different. I know that some people drink mostly red wine. That is absolutely fine. I'm not telling you that's wrong. Just for me, my way of living, my love of food, I think white wines really need to be more involved in your food applications. I do events, and I have a hard time selling white wine events. So I sell red wine events, but man, do I sneak some white wines into all of my events, because I really believe they are the ultimate pairing option. And we're not messing around. Our first wine tonight is one of the great white Bordeaux's. So let me get into that and open up our slideshow once again. And we're going to go to Domaine de Chevalier. This is Pessac-Léognan, which on the map, it's a better view, 99-point wine, by the way, 99-point white wine from 2016, just south of the city of Bordeaux and Pessac. And you can see grapes right there just below Pessac. And this is kind of where Chateau Aubrion rose to fame. We heard the date mentioned. They were the first to actually put their name on the bottle, because this wine was sold by the monks as a commodity by the barrel. They might, put the name of the village that it came from. Eventually made it into bottles. Eventually bottles had names on them, but Aubryon was the inventor, and really Aubryon was one of the most inventive brands of all time. And what a lot of people don't know is Chateau Aubryon, they became famous after putting a restaurant in England and serving Chateau Aubryon to the English, really getting close to their customer base. And then the other thing a lot of people don't know is the red wine of Chateau Bordeaux, which is amazing and maybe one of the greatest wines on earth. And when it's really good, it is spectacular, tends to need to be quite old. But the white wine actually sells for twice as much money as the red, because the white is very rare. And the white also ages just like as well as one of the red wines. Now, I haven't seen a really old bottle of the white on any auction markets, so maybe that's not 100% true. I'm not sure of the entirety of its aging capabilities, but 30, 40, 50-year-old white, absolutely, absolutely. So we're tasting a neighbor with Chevalier. And it is a fantastic property. It has storied gardens and has always been really an important property. There's some really interesting mentions in its significance to society, and has some sort of a stone road that leads all the way to Spain, to the Campasado. So there's some connection there. Today, the estate in beautiful condition, very monument looking, is making some of the very best wines in Bordeaux, both red and white. I do believe the white wine is even superior to the red in demand and in price point. So just take a look at that. You know, some of the best estates are making whites that are selling for north of their red wine companions. This one's 75% Sauvignon Blanc, 25% Semillon. It is dry. This is not Sauterne area. This is where we make very chiseled, terroir-driven white wines with incredible age capabilities. 2016, we're going to taste it now and evaluate where it's at, but should be in a pretty damn good spot. Here we are, almost 9 years on the, is that right? Am I doing the math right? No, it's 7 years. 7 years. And in my Zalto, it's got this wonderful kind of in-between color, meaning it's not as fresh looking and with a very pale yellow. This actually has a streak of gold in it, but it's also not old looking. It's got some age showing, but as it gets older, it starts to pick up even more golden tones, might even start to brown. And that's kind of the thing about white wines get darker and red wines get lighter with their age. As we swirl and smell this wine, it's all about the smell of that rock that they exposed, you know, in basically taking that very wet, marshy swampland and drying it out, exposing all of the stone. Some of these vineyards, the topsoil is almost entirely stone, round pebbles, very gravelly, very, very gravelly. "99 points," the review says. The white of the vintage is the 2016 Domaine de Chevalier Blanc, which comes from high density planting of 30-year-old vines located west and south of the town of Léognan. A blend of 75% Sauvignon, 25% Semillon, raised in 35% new barrels. It offers a massive bouquet of crushed citrus, salty minerality, white flowers, and grapefruit. Racy, full-bodied, concentrated, and beautifully textured. It's a brilliant wine that has more flesh and texture than the 2015 and will keep for 2 decades or more. Hats off to the team at Domaine de Chevalier for this brilliant, brilliant wine. 99 points, Jeb Dunnick. Here's a look inside the Shay. From the sky. And the bottle price, about $150 a bottle. These wines kind of sit in different plateaus, and as this wine ages, it'll step up to the next plateau, which, let's say 150. If the next person buys it, then the next plateau would be $230 a bottle. It may take a little while for it to actually get all the way up there, but that will be where this wine will be in the next couple of years. 16 was arguably one of the greatest vintages in Bordeaux, and to be named the best white, you can guarantee this wine's highly sought after. Well, I wanted to cover a lot of ground in this program, and I see a couple of chats, so I don't want to move too quickly. Let me make sure there's no questions in there. And I just want to make sure everyone knows we're going to kind of go and different price points here. Not everything we're going to taste is a 99-point legend here, but we want to cover the topic of Bordeaux pretty nicely. And we've already kind of set the tone. 3% of Bordeaux is white. And so it's a pretty rare exclusive product in areas like Pessec. The wine prices tend to be very elevated. They can make some volume on the low end white side. A lot of that comes further south in Bordeaux. I'm just going to go forward and show you a map. Down here in the Entre de Mer, this is kind of the flatlands that you can make some volume right down in here. And you can see a lot of wines that are categorically 12, 15, 18, maybe as much as $25 a bottle. They are not necessarily going to age forever, but I promise you, even a $12 bottle of Bordeaux Blanc from Entre de Mer, 5-10 years, no problem. So these wines have some integral qualities to them, some innate qualities to them. But when you get into the wines of Pessec, clear that, show you the difference. Again, here's Pessec over here, and here's Graves down here, Graves Blanc and Pessec. These wines are leaps and bounds in the way they're built and the style that they're built in, the aging capacity, also their financial investment and their financial capacity for expansion as being a good investment in your portfolio. Okay. Moving on. We're going to get back in now to, let's see, I might have to stop that. Okay, there we go. Thank you. We'll go to our first red of the day. I do a lot of business with a very good importer named Duclos. There are less expensive places to buy wines from Bordeaux, but I don't carry that much Bordeaux. Probably have 50 different Bordeaux selections on the website. And so I just don't want to waste my time buying from 20 different people, 20 different importers, and not knowing the importer very well. I can speak to the quality of Duclos, They really pride themselves on their provenance. That means the quality of their importation. The wines are kept in Bordeaux in perfect condition. They're transferred in refrigerated containers where they're then again stored here locally in perfect condition. And not a whole lot of the Bordeaux is here in America. So they come over in small batches and delivered pretty much direct to our shop. And this is probably one of the least expensive wines that they import, but comes from, it says Bordeaux on the label, but has vineyards in and around Margaux. And here's a little bit about the property. It's an 18th century chateau constructed in 1774. The estate weathered the French Revolution and remains within the family even to this day. I'm not sure how you did that. How did you get out of not losing your head? But that's a different story for a different day. Let's see. So this is considered a petit chateau, 22-acre property with a view of the Giron, and actually lies within the Medoc, but is very close to Margaux. And if you visit Bordeaux, the town of Bordeaux, I'm going to do this again with the annotation. As you're here, that's probably where the airport is, etc. And you're going to see the Giron River as you drive in towards Bordeaux. So it's this property is probably right around here, and very close to Margaux. And here's the Giron River. And when we talk about left bank, that's the left bank, and this is the right bank over here. And the two most important cities in the right bank, Pomerol, Saint-Emilion, and then the more famous parts of Bordeaux are up here, namely Margaux, Saint-Julien, Pauillac, Saint-Estèphe. And some wines of very good quality but lower price point can be made either in the Medoc or in the Haut-Medoc, in this area here. And that's what you basically are buying, the reputation of the estate, and the estate's reputation is very much leaning into the property it sits on. I have a little bit of a problem getting rid of my annotation. Sorry about that. Here's a look at our property. You'll see they all have fairly similar look, feel, and era. Yeah, I think some people are always surprised by the preponderance of Merlot in Bordeaux. There are some great wines on the left bank made from Cabernet, a large part of Cabernet, but the majority of the wines are made with a healthy portion of Merlot and decorated with Cabernet. And a pretty elite set of wines get to a point where they are predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon. And if they are predominantly Cab, it might be 60-40 or 60-30, 10% other, something like that. This property, I click through a little quickly there. This little wine that we're going to taste here is that's the incorrect score there. I don't think there is any kind of score on this wine by Jeb Dunnick. This is a little more casual wine. It's kind of starting us off in the reds in the value direction. You can see the nice heavy red soils. And in the Haut-Medoc, this is a very common look at the vineyards, very natural, lots of space, nice spatial competition, good for wind, to be able to dry out the grapes, keep problems away from the grapes, problems like mildew, odium type stuff that happens when it rains and there's just not enough air to dry out the fruit. You hang that fruit down in the fruiting zone. They're about 6, 8, 10 inches below the leaf, the top of the vine, and let that fruit hang out there so it stays dry and gets some sun, and mostly it's for the wind benefits. Here's a nice look from up above. As you can see, the Gironde, and you can imagine going back in time, the kind of the marshlands that used to be the left banks of Bordeaux, and how they worked to elevate this land, and really is why this area in Bordeaux is such a unique growing area, because it has such incredible capacity for drainage. So even though it's pounding down rain, there's no collection of puddles, and the soil remains pretty water free, and dries up very quickly, which is very important when you're growing the red grape varieties. And I told you we're going to start at the value side of the price point, so we're going to get into the glass now and appreciate this $15 bottle of red Bordeaux. And I really think this is one of our best values in Bordeaux. I want to get out of our video phase and be able to look at you for a moment. So I'll stop the share. (2019) vintages. We've had a lot of very good vintages. Just to speak about the best, 2012 was a really good comeback vintage after the amazing 9 and 10. 11 kind of gets overlooked. 13, 14, there's some good value because everyone was waiting to buy for the 15s, which are exceptional. And then 16 came, and the argument is which one was better, 15 or 16. And so kind of the off vintages can really over deliver in price and quality. I own a lot of 2014 wines. They're still available. They are drinking great, and they are half in price of, and mostly I'm not talking about $10, $14 inexpensive wines of Bordeaux. Should be younger, should be fresher. That's what we're celebrating here, is kind of a young, fresh Bordeaux. 15s are still drinking okay, but you go older, 14, 13 on a bottle of Bordeaux that's under $20, and they can start to get a little dried out. So I drink my under 20s, 15, 16 and sooner. Over 20, you got a bottle of wine that's probably built to last. And this is a pretty solid little effort here. Lots of red fruits, not real powerful, not real concentrated, but really clean, really pure, really soft and generous and easy to enjoy. And this is just made with that kind of quality in mind. And I'd love to hear what you guys think. I see Gio thinks it's a great value. Thank you. Seema likes the great price. Glad that sounds good to you. Yeah, and I got a wow up above from D and Rob. That's cool. I like that kind of reaction. Yeah. 19 and 20, we were climbing the vintage scale. 15, 16, amazing. Okay, just flat out. Take a little break. 17, 18, there's some very good hardworking wines in there, but everybody wanted to wait for 19 and 20. Again, 19 and 20 are like 15 and 16. Which one is better? They're so damn good. I mean, it's probably house to house. Right now, our 19 is drinking better than our 20. And 5 years later, oh, the 20 is finally better than the 19. And then 10 years after that, it kind of flips back the other way. it's just, that's the way these wines work. I think you're gonna love 1920. And from what I hear, we continue to tick forward pretty nicely. A very decent 21, 22, and those are starting to be talked about. And so, lots of good Bordeaux. Maybe too much, maybe too many good Bordeaux's. Too many good Bordeaux's for price appreciation, because there's just an unbelievable supply. Bordeaux is 8 times larger than Napa Valley. It is the largest producing wine region in France. The average bottle of wine out of Bordeaux, by the way, is about $6. So it is a huge supplier of volume wine, especially to the French. Not a lot of the $6 bottles make it out of France, make it out of Europe, I should say. You'll find them all over the place in Europe. But for an importer to make money, you can't even pay for the shipping on a $6 bottle of wine to get that all the way over here. You all of a sudden it's $10, $15. So this is a pretty much an entry point for Bordeaux, right around $15. Anything lower than that's probably made in a very large area from lesser quality farming practices and lesser quality dirt. And if you're looking at $5, $6 bottles of Bordeaux, I like to taste those just to see how they are, because if they're decent at all, I'm like, good job, that's amazing. I tend to find those on airplanes in small plastic bottles with a screw cap. I do put a lot of wine in alternative packaging at that price point too. They make it in even to like a milk carton style of package that's very popular in Europe, and someday may transition over here as well for volume standpoint. I think wine still has such an elitist tinge to it for Americans. They won't go to the Tetra Pak yet for wine, but it really is a decent container for a fresh, 1-year-old thing of wine that's not meant to age. Tetra Pak's going to work just fine. Let's go back into our PowerPoint and celebrate the next wine. I'm glad I got such great reactions on this one. I do have a decent amount of this wine, and I know that the next time I order it, the 2020 is going to be in. So we're going to be moving into the 2020s very soon. It may take $1 or $2 in price as well. That's the way things work. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that. So silky smooth. Don't need to age that at all. But again, if you bought this bottle of wine, had it in your cellar for a year or 2, 3, it's gonna be great. Let's go to what I was talking about. 2014. We jump wine number 3. We're gonna go to the right bank. This is La Fleur de Roy, Cuvée Excellence. I remember having the opportunity to buy this wine right in the middle of the pandemic. We weren't able to taste with the salespeople, so the importer sent me a bottle. Pomerol, right bank, red clay. This is clay, and this is Merlot growing in clay. Chateau La Fleur de Roy was created in 1958. 4 hectares, small, teeny, old vines. Here's a look at the vineyard on the right bank. Beautiful, beautiful. Love that windowed entry. That's a cool way to preserve the historic elements of the building as well. 85 Merlot, 10 Cab Franc, 5 Cabernet Sauvignon. A rich Merlot dominated wine with opulent, packed with blackberry fruits Has great structure of tannins and ripe fruitiness. Bitter chocolate and coffee flavors give an extra complexity. The wine is still young and still full of juicy fruits. It's 92 points in the wine enthusiast. I'm going to go back into my glass and give this a try. Keeps on fading. My volume keeps on fading out. Is that right? Maybe it's because I keep leaning back in my chair too. So I'll try to speak a little closer to the microphone. Hopefully that'll work. I'm getting a lot of mature kind of cigar box aromas in this bottle. The color is still beautifully intact. The nose is pretty advanced. Tastes damn good though. Wow. That's rocking. It's got like a little bit of a salty edge to it with some cherries and chocolate, balsamic. Can you hear me okay? Let me check on you. I'm not looking at you, so let me kill this. Am I right there? All right, good. The nose is really like, I'm going to say it's pretty wide open. Now, we put this in the jar on Monday, and it was showing very similar to this, but the nose wasn't quite as, I mean, the taste here is even better today, but the nose is pretty like leather-bound books, you know, was it like Ron Burgundy, that you know, library, red leather booths in a kind of an old stodgy restaurant. I don't think I'm going to be able to swirl that back to freshness, but I really like it, especially when you taste it. I mean, that is just freaking cool. If the nose is so off-putting that you're having a hard time tasting it, I might understand that, but this is a kind of an aged character, and I think it's a little more promoted here than when the wine was first opened. And if you were to buy a bottle of this, I would encourage you to decant it, but maybe it's better in the first hour on the nose. The mouth, this thing is singing. And for some people in the world, this is how Bordeaux is supposed to be. I mean, there's a huge population of very classically trained Bordeaux drinkers. They like age on their wine. They want it to show off that time, that they want to be drinking history. And I think this has some fantastic characteristics to it. I really do enjoy the mouth a lot. So I see the question about food and wine pairing. You know, I paired the first red. I would just pair that with, you know, any kind of casual night of having something from a cheeseburger to, you know, just some sort of casserole, just casual foods, pizza. That's your daily wonderful Bordeaux. Get into this and you can really start playing around with some different ingredients. I went to a Michael Mina restaurant once up in San Francisco. He served me filet mignon with foie gras on top. It was ridiculous. And I could see there's a very traditional dish where they take a filet and they roll it in a pastry dough with a like a foie gras or some sort of a a mousse, liver mousse with the beef, and they cook it in the oven, and they I think it's called a Chateaubriand, right? Is that what that's called?
It's beef Wellington.
Wellington? Okay. I think is it what is a Chateaubriand?
A fillet on the grains. It's cut differently from the fillet, so the grains crosswise.
Okay. I'm gonna take your word for it, Gary. But yeah, that's what I would have with this particular dish. But you could certainly reach into any type of lamb. There's a great restaurant in Bordeaux. It's very famous, and it's actually really hard to get into now. And I'm not even so sure that it's good like it once was, but it has this massive fireplace in it, and this spit roast side of beef just being turned over the flame. And you walk in there and you sit down and you look at their wine list, and it's got like 1,000 wines in there, because it's got every winery in Bordeaux for the last 30 vintages and even older. And a place like that would have a selection of different roasts, different type of game, wild boar, things that you would find, a deer, things like that. If you're not into that type of food, and you want to be a little more sensitive to red meat, very good with rabbit. Very good with rabbit. If you're not into eating rabbit, I'm sure you could find some vegetarian dishes. Agreed with the duck pairing. Thank you. Goose liver pâtés, things like that could really take on some. It is actually illegal right now in California to serve foie gras. It kind of went back and forth, so a lot of people are confused what the state is, but a restaurant looked into it and they could actually get shut down if they put foie gras on the menu. Now that's because it's illegal to serve the goose liver that's been force fed, but you can use liver and make a liver mousse. And so they're coming up with different ways to describe it, but you can't actively buy or sell and remarket foie gras in the state of California right now. Man, that would be good with this. Thomas, you're being quiet today. How's that wine trading you?
I love this wine, Ian. This is an old-fashioned Bordeaux, the way they used to make them, right? That you described it perfectly. That library textbook. There's a leather binding smell to it, a little bit gamey almost, and the beautiful finish in the mouth. It's just tremendous. I once went into a restaurant just outside of Paris, and they were doing a Côte de Boeuf, over the fire. Right, that would be beautiful with this as well. I thought duck confit as well, but anything that's traditional, old-fashioned French cooking goes with this. What I would call an old-fashioned French wine. Love it.
I'm so glad you said that. It's great, because sometimes I say things and I'm looking at the audience and no one's agreeing with me, but it's nice that you did on this time.
You had it down. I didn't need to. All I'm doing is chiming in here, jumping on.
Well, and this was a great example of 2014. I was in mid-story telling you that the importer sent me a bottle, and when I smelt it 3 years ago, it did not smell like that. When I first smelt it, I was so in love with the nose, but then I got the nose of this one, and I was like, whoa, this thing is really taken. This thing's gone from like, it's got old in a hurry. And then I tasted it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. That is exactly what it's supposed to be doing. So it's pretty exaggerated. in our sample tonight. But 14, it's a 14 wine. And let me go check the price where I'm at. I might be right raising that price. That is good stuff. I gotta find that. Hold on a second. Good. So I think it was mid slideshow when I broke out of there. Came to taste this with you too. Rich Merlot dominated wine, opulent, packed with blackberry fruits. It's a structure of tannin and ripe, bitter chocolate, coffee flavors. Yeah, that's there, but it's so much better than that. I mean, it's got so much more happening. I think 92 points was a wonderful review from like the year 2015, but to see it with 7 years of age on it, it's really taken some beautiful turns. And here's what it does look like in most of those right bank cellars. Those left bank cellars, they look like you land an airplane in them. The right bank cellars are teeny. This is but they tend to just only stack them, one high, maybe two high if they have a little larger crop, but they keep it pretty nice and in touch with the earth there. The right bank does have heavier soils, and there is not as good a drainage on the right bank. And in fact, that keeps the right bank away from doing a lot of Cabernet. Now, they have gotten pretty good at finding little teeny spots that they can plant some Cab, but the right bank is absolutely dominated by Merlot and Cab Franc, usually to the tune of 80-20, 60-40, and some exceptions. I didn't see a breakdown on this one. Oh, there it is. 85-10-5. So yeah, this is one of those places that has a little bit of Cab. Wow. $35. Super. But that's what you could get from a 14. And if we were talking about the same house in 2015, 2016, could be $80 for the same wine. So as we in California, never really see price fluctuation, Bordeaux is all about the vintage and the way it's priced, which is really can be quite extreme sometimes. And imagine you're a Bordeaux owner and the vintage doesn't have the greatest talk, and you're heading into huge vintages. You need to move some of that wine out, and you need to get it out in the market, and you need people to drink it. Softer, tougher vintage like 14. This is not a wine that you want to keep for 25 more years. This is a wine that's exciting now, and that's what they do with those challenging vintages. Maybe it was cold, wet, whatever. They probably didn't make that much wine either. That's the kind of the downside. The tough vintages, they make even smaller amounts of wine and sell it for less. So it can be a pretty rough financial ride for a Bordeaux house. We'll go to the right bank and taste another great 14. This is from Chateau Falon-Ségur in Saint-Estèphe. Now, this is a Cabernet haven in Saint-Estèphe, but there's still going to be a lot of Merlot, as we are in the northern Bordeaux, just on top of Pauillac. In fact, a lot of Saint-Estèphe dances right on the edge of Pauillac. And some of my favorite wines, period, probably price, value, quality wise, I just land in Saint-Estèphe a lot because I love brands like Cologne-Ségur, Chateau Montrose, and this is a really fun house as well. Falon-Ségur used to be part of Cologne-Ségur. They broke it into little pieces. The same owner that owned Cologne-Ségur and Falon-Ségur and all this Ségur stuff owned Montrose. He also owned Chateau Lafite. He was called the Prince of Wine, and he lived at Chateau Lafite, but his girlfriend lived at Cologne-Ségur. That's why it has the little heart on the label. His wife probably didn't appreciate that, but Here's Fallon Secure. And it says Cabernet Merlot. Doesn't give me the numbers. But again, black currant, blackberry, cherry, bell pepper. I'm gonna get mine in the glass. Olive, asparagus. 14 could be a little bit more pyrazine in the wine, a little wetter, a little cooler. Exotic notes like spice, ginger, and you get the oak, vanilla, black cherry, plum, smoke, toast, and tar. This is a complicated wine. Currants, black currants, cherries, cedar, cigar box, violet, rose, truffle, earth, coffee, leather. The nose is way more restrained than the prior, but pretty. Pressure. And does have some of that Cabernet statement, you know, those, I call them expensive spa aromatics, that vanilla, that cedar, that little cigar box. 90 points on this one. Also, kind of a good thing to say right here too. The right bank wines almost always drink way ahead of the left bank. The Merlot based wines are usually, you can drink a right bank wine 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. But left bank wines really kind of like, that timer's hard set. It loves 10 years. Now the 14 wines, you can drink them and enjoy the classic notions, very Sansa stuff here. Get that Cabernet kind of tannin structure. Doesn't have kind of the wow factor that Pomerol had, but a very solid wine and a very good price too. Not a huge chateau.
Oh,
20 bucks.
$20. Wow.
Yeah. A little bit of mint, a little bit of eucalyptus, mint, Vicks Vapor Rub. Get the Vicks Vapor Rub. I don't think that's a very textbook or wine writer compliment, but kind of, I think it just summarizes everything so well. You really can feel that kind of nice warm sensation in the nose. Tells you that's Cabernet. You have Vicks Vapor Rub in the nose, you're drinking, you probably got some cab in there. La Croix Bonnier, Santa Steph, 14, 20 bucks. All right, we step it up. We're going big show here. We're going into Chateau Canac Brown Margaux 2016. Oh, I haven't had this wine in a while. This is like one you can buy every single year, and it's a good value. Not like the 14 wine type of value. This is like collect it for your lifetime type of value. 16 is a great vintage. It's a very good house. It's a very good scoring wine, but this isn't Chateau Margaux. This is from the town of Margaux and just down the street, and a fraction of the price of a Chateau Margaux. But I had the great pleasure of going to Chateau Margaux and meeting Mr. Paul Pontier, the director of Chateau Margaux, for like 30 plus years, the glory years of Chateau Margaux, from the 70s, 80s, 90s. I met him in early 2000s. He passed away around 2010 or so. He was a transitional figure in Bordeaux, a really important man, especially for Chateau Margaux, but for wine. And I was standing in the window with him looking out over the vineyard. Rain was coming down in buckets. I got dropped off at the door of the chateau, which, by the way, is about a football field away from the actual front door. So I ran my ass from the road all the way to the front door, and I walked into that chateau just dripping, even with an umbrella, because the rain was coming in all directions sideways. I was just drenched. And the umbrella really didn't have a chance. It just got thrashed. And we're standing in the window looking out over the winery, and he goes, "This is Chateau Margaux, and why Margaux is so important, because as you looked across the vineyard, even as hard as it was raining, there wasn't a puddle to be found. The soil was just sucking up all the water, and it was on like day 5 of a huge storm. So it wasn't like it just started raining. It was just drenched all the time." Great history here. Most of the chateaus have a history that take you back to the 1700s, early 1800s. This is a classified wine of 1855. A little more grand than some of the other chateaus that we've tasted today, and looks a lot like Chateau Margaux, actually. I bet it has the same architect or architectural influence anyway. Look at that beauty. 68% Cabernet, 32 Merlot. Quality of the wine is no accident. Gravelly slopes in the village of Cannec produces some of the best wines of the world, and its location of many cru classes of Margaux. The soils, poor and generous at the same time, added to a deep-rooted vine, and the vintners' know-how lead to fine, elegant, and perfectly balanced wines. Cabernet and Cabernet Franc produce subtle wines with intense bouquet, well suited for laying down. Merlot makes up the remainder of the vines and contributes color, richness, and roundness. 95 points. Poised and precise, this excellent quality and well-defined black fruits. It feels like the fruit is ripe, but not overly so. Carefully delineated by the great freshness and touches of slate, rosemary, and dark chocolate. Extremely precise nose slowly reveals itself, gaining in power. I love this premiere, and it's even more striking today. He loved it at En Premiere. It's the first week of April. They have a tasting where they invite all the reviewers to taste these wines, actually before they're bottled, just before they're bottled. So when you bottle them, you go into what's called bottle shock. So they want them to taste them right before they're going to bottle or as they're being bottled, so they really haven't shut down. And this wine got this very nice score, 60% new French oak. So you're talking about a pretty significant wine for a very significant estate, but in the size of things is still pretty small compared to some of the grand chateaus. This is all of $91. And I really think this wine is, again, about 5 years away from hitting kind of a next level of what you're going to experience. But you can smell the quality here. Yes, definitely younger, Tom. Definitely too young, but a really good time to buy the 16s is now that are still out there. The newer wines come in with even slightly higher prices. 16s are kind of a deal because there are still a lot in the market. And they haven't hit that next tranche in price. This goes from 91 to it'll be about $140 probably in about 5 years. Oh, the mouth is pretty dense. Got some much better quality of weight. I remember tasting our $15 example tonight, which was really light on its feet and, silky and soft. And this has just got layers and, pounds of flesh. And it is very serious, very serious. D, I don't know which one wrote that, D and Rob. I love, does D love young wines or does Rob love young wines?
I love young wines.
All right, that's great, D.
So we both do.
Oh, very good. That brings you together. This one's showing great, don't you think?
It's amazing.
This one, you really actually get that sensation of kind of that chocolate experience, kind of not necessarily like a chocolate cake, but maybe like a high cacao, almost kind of leads you into that pebbly mouth feel. And I really love the density. It kind of continues in your palate. You can feel it, 15, 20, 30 seconds later, you still have the sensation of this chewy cherry skin in your mouth. And this is one of this is what you pay for, a little bit more, It goes from being a glass of wine to very much an experience.
That definitely want to decant before drinking in, and I am getting some back tannins with this wine, which just again leads me to believe that in about 5 years' time it's going to be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
Beautiful now, but
it is amazing what happens on the 10th birthday. It's like a turkey thermometer just pops up and something has just happened in the bottle, and all of a sudden it releases this whole nother layer of complexity. This is they call wines like this, like that what we're tasting right now, what we're the sensations we're feeling, kind of the baby fat. And at the 10-year mark, that baby fat disappears and you just get all of this other stuff that kind of is released as it's finally gotten through the baby fat. But I love this wine from the very first time I tried it, and it's continuing to grow on me. I had a very good track record of buying this wine almost every single year. And then I got a wine store and I stopped doing that. And now I'm saying, why did I stop doing that? Because I had a really nice little vertical of this wine. So I'm gonna go back out and look around. I don't like to take too much of my financial abilities and put them into real young, I'm still a young man, 55 as of last week, but if I have to wait 20 years to drink a bottle of wine, that puts me at 75 years of age. I'm probably instead going to buy wines that are 10 years old now and start to, put some different capital to work in wines that are a little more accessible when I want to have them at my fingertips.
Mm.
I'm going to stop this show just for a second, make sure everybody's cool. We're going to move into our dessert wine.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you, thank you. It was a winner. I had the best birthday of my lifetime. My 55 was a big one for me, and my mom flew out from North Carolina and surprised the hell out of me. I had a dinner party, and my wife walked in with my mom in her hand, and I just broke down. It was great. All right. Lisa, Gary, you guys have traveled with my mom. Yeah. Hey, Gary, you didn't get to? No, not yet.
Oh, not yet.
Here, Argentina. She's gonna go. My dad's a massive photographer. The joke is that he's got 50 pounds of photography equipment and takes a million pictures, but no one ever gets to see these pictures. They're somewhere. Gary, can you relate to that?
I can relate to that. Yeah.
Gary's a great photographer too. He actually said you actually sent me more pictures of our trips than my dad did. So I still pull his chain on that. We are, and I should plug that we are planning our trip to Bordeaux and Burgundy for the middle of April. And we're finalizing that trip right now. We're going to release Burgundy in about a week. We'll have Burgundy up and available for purchase. You can go just to Burgundy. It's a week-long trip, or you can do both, or you can just do Bordeaux. But it'll be in quick succession towards the end of April. And we're putting together some really beautiful experiences. We move into our dessert wine portion of the evening, moving from the white, spectacular white that we started off with. And by the way, in Bordeaux, there's amazing selection of fish that are offered. Some interesting fish as well, as they eat this eel-like fish that they have in the waters of the Gironde. And it is served in many restaurants, but there's a very large selection of fish in Bordeaux. So anything fish or chicken would go definitely with that white. The white category also, though, contains Sauterne, and dessert wine has suffered unreasonable setbacks. It used to be such a huge category, and there's massive consolidation in all dessert wine areas of the world. For those people that live in LA, we had a tasting yesterday in Los Angeles of Madeira. Oh God, those wines are amazing and timeless, by the way. They age for lifetimes. And the island of Madeira has hundreds and hundreds of small grower families, but now only 6 producers. 6. And each producer may make a couple different labels. And the only thing they're doing is really tweaking the residual sugars. So there's really only 6 producers, and that's super sad. But Madeira is so phenomenal. Sauterne may be going to suffer a similar fate because there was just way too much Sauterne available. And a lot of the Sauterne houses have started to make dry whites. Even Chateau Yquem makes a wine called Y, which is a dry white, because they just cannot sell all of the Sauterne that they could make. Sauternes in the most southern part, and what happens is they grow the grapes just like every other place, but right around August, September, The rains come and it stays a little cooler in Sauterne, and this noble rot kicks in called botrytis. And it is something to behold. And the legend has it that one of the great chateaus, the owner told his team as he rode off on a horse to war, not to pick the grapes until he returns. Well, he returned to find his vineyard overrun with this rot, and he picked it and he turned it into wine, and the wine that he made was Chateau Yquem. And that's how the whole category really got started. This is Rio Sec, and this Rio Sec, they make two quality levels. This is the second level. A bottle of Rio Sec would sell $100, $125, $150, $200 a bottle. This is their second level of quality, and it's dominated by the grape varieties Muscadel, Semillon, and Sauvignon Blanc. It says in the description a little better, it's 80 to 90% Semillon with a balance of Sauvignon Blanc and Muscadel. I was surprised to see it listed first on the slide. Muscadel is usually just a teeny little percentage, not usually the first grape. When you list the grape varieties, you're supposed to list them in descending order. No real review in the marketplace for these second wines. Maybe some years, but not on this one. So I kick in, and I used to write for a number of different reviewers. Most of my time was spent with James Suckling. We used a 100-point scale, 100 points broken down into 15 points for color. And this wine has a very light, fresh, youthful color, which is starting to progress. And now I've had this wine about a year and a half. 17 was a great vintage to buy Sauterne. Sauterne usually is better in the worst vintages for the reds, because it really got botrytis in the south. The cooler, wetter year will produce even better wine. So there is kind of a strange magnet that pulls the price of the great vintages of the red wines and the great Sauternes kind of at the same time. The price moves, but the quality isn't necessarily better in those great vintages for Sauternes. It's kind of the tougher years that you can really make some great Sauterne. But here you got 23 out of 25 points for the aroma, 23 out of 25 points for the body, and the overall 31 of 35 for overall impression of the wine. Gives a total point score of 90 points. Here's the front driveway of Rio Sec. That picture is wrong. And here is our price, $30 for a half bottle. I just did something weird. I poured my number one in the glass, thinking that was the Sauterne, because I poured only half of my number one. Like, that is the driest Sauterne I've ever had. There we go. That's Sauterne. Good God. Honey, grapefruit, lemon peel. It's almost like a lemon meringue pie in a glass. Now, the first wine of Rio Sec from 17 is probably twice as sweet. This is nicely sweet, and I think it has really good balance. And I love the honeyed nose, and you could have this with so many different things. You could start a meal off with Sauterne. Again, kind of leaning back into that discussion we were having about foie gras or any kind of terrine or anything bacon wrapped. Bacon wrapped chestnuts were a big thing in my family. I don't know why. Around Christmas, we'd always, these bacon wrapped chestnuts would always show up with a little toothpick in them around the Christmas party table. Really fun dish is to wrap bacon around scallops with a glass of Sauterne. Sweet wines and hearty dishes can be really, really great. One of the great pairings here is blue cheese. Endive salad with blue cheese crumbles. Yeah, have it with a Sauterne. Live well. And you can have this with different types of pastries, cheese-filled pastries or cream-filled pastries. Great with dessert, of course, cheese, of course, but it's really interesting to pair with some of those savory things. I had a pizza once. It was like onions, like a onion marmalade with blue cheese and bacon with a glass of Sauterne. How's that? We're already zooming out into March and April. We're starting to work on March and April of next year. So every Wednesday. See you guys soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ian.
Ian.
Cheers.